Okay, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there today. Um, we'll see if a video, if you guys can behave well enough, Jacob, to watch a video and just take notes. So hopefully you've already copied all this down in your book, in your notebooks, and we'll start filling it in. So this section, 4.8, is all about multiplying and dividing monomials. And that sounds a lot more complicated than it really is. Um, If you remember, I think it was section 4.4, we spent some time working with powers and exponents, right? Okay, well how did we work with them? What we'd do is we'd see something like this, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and we'd say how can we write that in a more compact way, like a smaller expression? Well, we'd see that this was, or how many threes we had. We have 4 threes, right? And so we'd say, okay, the base is 3, because that's what I keep multiplying, and I do it 4 times. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 to the power of 4, right? And this is what we'd call the exponent. And it works the same with variables. So if I have y times y times y times y times y, I have how many y's? 5 y's. So I write y to the power of 5. So just remember the different parts of the expression, or the different names, right? Each piece has different names. So if I have something like 5 to the third, remember in your notes, what did I call 5? I called it the base. And what did I call 3? We call that the exponent. So here, this is the exponent. That's the base. Exponent, base. Okay? So today, we're going to learn some tricks that you can do if you're dealing with expressions where the bases are the same. Okay? So here's an example. Let's say I have this expression, 3 to the power of 4, and then I have this expression, 3 to the power of 2. There's some tricks that I can do depending on how I put them together. Okay? So let's say, that we'll call this trick number 1. Let's say I want to multiply 3 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 2. What is it? Well, I can do it the long way. I can do it 3 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 2. Right? And then I get, how many times do I write this? 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 4 times, right? And then how many times do I write the other one? 2 times 3 times 3. Well, this turns out to be some really big number. It's 729. If I were to do 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Um, the the point right now is not to figure out what the answer is as far as multiplying everything, but what's a better way or a more condensed way to write it? Well, let's just count the number of threes. I have 4 threes here, and I have 2 threes here. So 4 plus 2 is 6. So instead of writing it 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, I could just write it 3 to the power of 6. So 3 to the 4th times 3 to the 2 is 3 to the 6. So let's do it with another one just to clarify. If I have 2 to the power of 2 times 2 to the power of 3, that's 2 times 2 for the first one. So I write it 2 times. I write 2 times. And then the second one, I write 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I write it 3 times. But if I add them all up, or if I add up the number of times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the same as just writing 2 to the power of 5. So the trick number 1 is when you multiply the bases, see I'm multiplying 2 to the 2 and 2 to the 3, but these are the bases and they're multiplying here. When I multiply the bases, what do I do with the exponents? I'm adding the exponents. So I can look at this and say, well, this is 3 to the, see I have a 4 and a 2, this is 3 to the 4 plus 2. And this is 2 to the 2 plus 3, because 2 plus 3 is 5. 4 plus 2 is 6. That's the idea. So that's trick number 1. When you multiply the bases, you add, okay? Okay? Um, this also works with variables. This works with variables too. So it's the same idea. If I have x to the 4th times x to the 3rd, then I have x times x times x times x. See? So this is the first one, 4 x's for this one. And then here I have x times x times x for the second one. But what's 4 plus 3? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is x to the power of 7. Or let me fix that. This is x to the 4 plus 3, which is x to the 7th. That's the trick. So let's skip this part and just say, okay, a to the power of 2 times a to the power of 4 is a to the, and you add these exponents. So it's a to the 2 plus 4, which is a to the 6. Okay? So when I multiply the bases, I add these little superscripts, exponents. Trick number 2. 3 to the power of 4 over 3 to the power of 2. We're going to see how it works when you're dividing the bases. So 3 to the power of 4, how many times do I write 3? 4 times, right? And then 3 to the power of 2, I write it 2 times. Well, I could do the multiplication and everything and then work it all out, but you guys should kind of know that if I have something on the top and I have the same thing on the bottom of a fraction, they cancel. So that means this 3 will cancel with that 3. And then this 3 can cancel with that 3. So how many 3's do I have left on the top? I have 2. So it's 3 to the 2. Well, guess what? 4 minus 2 is 2. So maybe you can kind of guess what the trick is going to be. Let's do it again with 2 to the power of 3 over 2 to the power of 2. Well, 2 to the power of 3, if you did 2 times 2 times 2, 2 times 2 times 2 is 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. And then 2 to the power of 2, 2 times 2, that's 4. But what's 8 divided by 4? The answer is 2, right? Well, or you could say 2 to the power of 1, because I only write it once. But let's try to figure out our trick here. Again, if I cancel this 2 with this 2, and then this 2 with this 2, how many 2's am I left with? I'm left with 1, 2. So I could just look at it as 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2. 2 to the power of 3 minus 2. 3 minus 2 is 1, so I'm left with 1, 2. So my answer is 2. So I hope that's not confusing. So when you divide the bases, you subtract the exponents. That's the idea for the second trick, okay? When you divide the bases, you subtract the exponents. And again, this works with variables. Let's say I have something like c to the power of 8 divided by c to the power of 5. So you write out c times c times c times c times c times c times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And then on the bottom I write c times c times c times c times c. So 1, 2, 3, 4, just keep canceling, and then I'm left with this. But let's try to skip this middle step from now on. So don't do the middle step where you write everything out. Instead, use the trick. If I divide the bases, you subtract the exponents. So instead of doing this, we'll just say, okay, this is c to the 8 minus 5. Well, what's 8 minus 5? That's 3. You see? And I'm left with 3 c's here. So it works, but we don't have to do the middle step anymore. Instead, just skip this step and go to here. That's the point of the lesson, okay? So that should get you started. You have something in your notebooks. Now you're going to work on section 4.8, the worksheets, study guide and practice problem. The study guide's on the front and the practice problems are on the back. You don't have to do it on a separate sheet of paper, and just leave it in the bin when the bell rings. Okay? Have a good break.